So today we're going to talk about enlargements with a positive scale factor, which we've dealt with when we were dealing with a grid. But now we have a center. So our center of enlargement is at the origin, which if we remember, our origin is just the point 0, 0. So first step, always we're going to mark our center of enlargement, and then we're going to draw lines that connect our center of enlargement and each vertex. So this is going try and be as accurate as you can because this will help us when we're just checking over our work. So take a straight edge, always draw on with pencil. Sorry, I'm going to go do this through the magic of technology. So now we're back through the power of technology. I've put some lines on there. So your lines should look similar to that. Now we're going to use those after to kind of check through our work and make sure it's as right as possible, as correct as possible. So now we're going to count the number of squares vertically and horizontally between the center, so our X in blue, and each vertex or corner. So we don't have to end up doing this with actually all of our vertices. That's lucky. I end up just usually picking a couple and then applying our old method of how to enlarge that we've dealt with on a grid. So here, what this is going to look like, we're one away here in our X and one away in our Y to get to this point. So I'll do that one there. Then here, to get up to this, where we can draw a little kind of horizontal vertical lines like that, and we know we're 2 and 1. So with our scale factor of 2, we know that we have 2 times 2 is equal to 4, and we have 1 times 2 is equal to 2. So that is actually part of step 3 as well. And so now what this tells us, these numbers, so what we've done in red, our calculations here, is this tells us how far from our center our shape is going to be. So for our green corner here that we've worked with, I'm going to do this one first. So from our center, I am going to draw over, and I'm going to do this actually in purple so you can see. So where this was a 1, well, times by 2, we know that becomes 2. Now, this 1 going up has to become 2 going up. So we know that this point is right there. So that is our new bottom left corner. Next, we're going to look at red. So what we've done in red here, well, we know that instead of being 2 up, we're going to go 4 up, and I'm going to do this in yellow. So now we're 4. And then instead of being 1 over, we're going to be 2 over. And so notice how we're just a little bit off with our lines. When you're doing this on graph paper, it'll be much more accurate than it would be for me doing it here on the computer. But you get the right idea. When you actually do this, you're going to find that a lot of them land on it, or they should land on it if it's drawn correctly. So at this point, we have 2 of our points, one in yellow, one in purple. I'm going to draw a line that connects them because that is our left-hand side of that square. If we look at what our dimensions of our original square, it was 1 by 1. So this is where I mentioned in the previous video, we can kind of skip steps. So instead of having to do this with every corner, I mean, you go ahead and by all means do this. You can just redraw it. So instead, if we know that 1 becomes 2, so it's going to be 2 over. And this is where I said it can be helpful to have these lines because they can be your kind of check. So right there, we're going to stop, which lands on our line. Then we go 2 down, which almost lands on our line, and then 2 over. So we are done. We're going to do one more example to kind of get a better feel for this. So we want to enlarge the shape with a scale factor of 3 using origin as our center of enlargement. So first thing we do, mark our origin. Then we're going to draw our lines. So I'm going to pause the video while I add in the lines. So we now have our lines on our page. They should look something like this, right? So now we are going to pick a vertex or corner. So the first one I'm going to pick is simply the closest one, as always. So I'm picking this one. So it's 0.5 up, right? And then it's 1 to the right. But is that really what we're doing? No, we're going from the center, remember, to our shape when we actually go count after. So we should say 1 to the left and 0.5 down. Now we're going to do by a scale factor of 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. And this 0.5 times 3 is going to be 1.5. Remember, those are just how far we're moving. It doesn't indicate our direction. So you have to know what's going on. With positive scale factor, it's further away from our center, but on the same side. And then negative, we'll see eventually. So here we've picked one of our points. I'm now going to choose another point. Last time I chose this one down the side. I'm going to choose one a little bit further away. So I'm going to choose a point on the left, our top left points. I'll do this one in purple this time. So here we're 2 to the left, and we're 0.5 down. So we already know that 0.5 times 3 is 1.5. And then now we have to do 2 times 3, which is going to be 6. So first thing, right, we'll just pick, I'm going to choose to keep working with my purple one. So we start at the center and we're going over how far? Well, we're going over 6, right? Notice this will actually land outside of our axes. So sometimes if that happens, the question actually doesn't work. But for all intents and purposes, we're just going to say that I have a point over there, which is 6, and I'm going 1.5 down. And if we trace this over, 1.5 is here. So I'm going to make a nice big point. With most cases, if you find you're outside of your actual axes, you know you've done something wrong, but often it can be something where something's wrong with the actual paper. Our next one, though, because we'll continue doing this example, is simply 1 over and 0.5. So that's going to become 3 over from our center, and then 1.5 down. So we are at -3 and -1.5 in our y. So one thing I want to point out about that first point we've done is notice how that line, if we continue it, is going to actually hit our purple point. And a red point lands on it as well. Here's where I like to say, well, just try and save yourself some effort. We're going to connect those points right now. And then if it's supposed to be a half a block down, we already know what 0.5 turns to 1.5, or basically where our line, our dotted line meets our other line. Now I'm just going to draw the other sidelines on to finish up our rectangle. So if we had our grid actually going a little bit further, we could have finished this off properly, but we're going to get some more practice on the next page because there will be a few questions for you to actually do. So here there are 2 questions, both with the center about the origin. One has a scale factor of 2, one has a scale factor of 3. Try your best. I'm going to pause the video now. Once you're ready, you may press play and we'll go quickly through the answers. So welcome back. We're going to go through these 2 practice problems with this center at the origin. So we're going to mark our center at the origin. Then we're going to choose a corner. This is 1 over and 1 down. So this is scale factor of 2. So we know that those are going to become 2. So from here, I'm just going to take that over, go over 2, go up 2, and I'm going to make one of my points. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of shortcut and just do 1 point, and then I know because this measurement on this square is 1 and that's 1, those are both going to become 2, so it's going to be over to the left 2, over up 2, and then we have enough information to actually draw our shape. And we're done. One thing I'm going to do now, just to show that we don't actually have to draw those lines. Many of you might have thought, oh, you wait a sec, you skipped some steps. You can choose to draw these lines after just to help you, just to see if, well, did I make it close? But they, like I said, they are not actually requirements. They're just there for guidance, and they can help decide, hey, did you actually do the question right, or is it totally out to lunch? So as you can tell, my vertices line up, so we know that we've done our question correctly. So next one, scale factor of 3. We're going to start off the exact same way. I'm going to opt again not to actually draw in our lines at the beginning, choose for the end. So here, I'm going to choose our closest vertice, because it's the easiest one. So we know from here to here, that is 0.5, and it's actually 0.5 down as well. So we can do 0.5 times 3, which is 1.5. So we're going to start off, we'll go 1.5 down, and then 1.5 in. So we should be at negative 1.5 and 1.5. Or sorry, 1.5 and negative 1.5 as a point. And I'm just going to kind of take the shortcut method again and take, well, if one block big of a square is going to times by here 3, we're going to get this box being a 3 by 3. So here I can, from this point, I can go down 1, 2, and 3. So I know that's one of my corners. And then 1, 2, and 3. And simply I can start drawing my lines. Okay, so, and always, like I said, it is a good idea until you feel very confident to draw in those lines. Only takes a second, but it can be that second sometimes it might save you some marks. So we could tell even as we were doing some of that, getting some of these lines in, that, well, they definitely do line up. So, and the farther you extend your lines, the more accurate they will be. There you go. That is how we enlarge with their center at the origin.